Hi everyone and welcome to this Ask Me Anything session. So today the focus is going to be on for students who are going to take CAT 25 and this is going to be maybe their second or third attempt. So the focus is on repeat takers. However, if you are somebody who is preparing for the very first time and you have joined this session, absolutely no problem. Make sure that you ask your question in the YouTube chat section and I'll try and answer it as soon as I can. Of course, we'll be starting with the questions that I've already received through the Google form. So we have kept a Google form and this is a form that we use for all the Ask Me Anything sessions. So if you have any questions, you can always put it there. But today, while you're attending the session, I would encourage you to put it in the chat window directly so that I can take it from there. So through the form, we had circulated it a few days back and we got a few questions. So what I've done is I have combined some of them to create broadly 10 themes and we're going to be discussing these questions. Okay. All right. So I can see already a question in the chat window from Rishi Rich, and this is regarding you're going to be you're a repeater and you're asking whether it's too late. Absolutely, it's not late, right? So don't worry about it at all. You have enough time, and especially if you're somebody who had prepared last time, you should not be so worried. So if it was the first attempt that you had, if it was completely without any prep, of course the preparation strategy and plan will be different compared to somebody who had a very good attempt last year or had a prepared attempt last year. Okay, so there are different things. Somebody may have prepared but didn't have a good attempt. Somebody didn't prepare at all, things like that, right? So depending on who you are, of course the plan that you will have for this year will be different. However, you are not late, right? So even if you are somebody who is preparing for the very first time, it's not late to start your preparation. So we have ample time, but of course, it's always better to start your preparation as early as possible. All right, so let's start with some of the questions that I got through the Google form, and I'll keep taking questions from here and then taking questions from the chat window as well. Okay. All right. So the first question that we got was I'm reappearing for CAT 25 and last year I scored a 96 percentile with a very good sectional split. I've improved a bit in geometry but still hovering around 92-93 in mocks. What should be my strategy now to push into 98 plus range? So firstly, we have a very good data point to begin with, right? So you had CAT last year and you had a 96 percentile there, which puts you in a very good position. So this year, firstly, you'll have to figure out what went wrong in terms of calls this year, as in the CAT 24 season. Because at 96 percentile and this kind of a split, I'm sure you must have received a few calls at least. If not IMs, maybe some of the new IMs, or let's say you got some of the non-IM calls. So if things haven't worked out on that front, you should definitely think about that as well. The second thing is the split is very, very good. So it's a fairly balanced split. It is not showing any particular sign of weakness as such. Everything is fine. Of course, there's scope to improve in the second and the third section, which is DLR and quant. So maybe VRC is your strength, but DLR and QA is something where you'll have to work. Since you have specifically asked about geometry, see, geometry is a very vast area, and to build confidence in geometry, you'll have to solve, say, somewhere around 200 to 300 questions of geometry, and then the confidence will start coming to you. Unlike, say, something like a percentages, right, where even if you do 50-60 questions, you fairly feel confident about your abilities to solve percentage questions. But in geometry, that number is large. So one thing is the formulae, right? So knowing all the formulae, the theorems that are there, that is very, very crucial. On a periodic basis, revise those things. So just because I studied today that, okay, these are the formulae, does not mean that I'll remember it forever. So I would suggest that you follow something like a 7, 14, 21 day repeat cycle or a revision cycle. What I mean by that is, let's say if I study something today, let me revise it after 1 week. So let's say I did triangles today. After 7 days, I'm going to revise triangles. After another 14 days, I will revise triangles. And then after another 21 days, I'll revise triangles. Right? So if you follow something like that, again, the number can be different. You can say 10, 20, 30 days also. But a week is like a very good number to go with. That today I studied. After 7 days, automatically you can set a reminder and then just follow that. Right? So the revision is very, very crucial to master things like geometry, which is heavily formula dependent. And right now I'll not worry too much about my percentile. Okay, so see, this is again a feedback that I share with all the students, whether you're a first time aspirant or a repeater, is your percentile is not that important at this point of time. So whether you're taking IMS mocks, you're taking whatever mocks, the percentile is immaterial. It just shows you that in that particular test compared to the other aspirants who took the test, how did you perform. That is why in IMS mocks, so those of you who are IMS students, you see something called a predicted CAT percentile. So we started releasing this number because we know that there's a lot of dead weight that happens in the actual CAT, which automatically pushes up your percentile. So again, that number also sometimes might lead to overconfidence. So let me not focus too much on the percentile. Instead, I will think about my raw score. What is the accuracy that I'm getting? Am I doing the stuff that I know properly? Am I able to solve most of the questions from the areas that I'm comfortable with or not? So those are the things that you should be focusing on, rather than just trying to look at the percentile and thinking, oh, last year I had a 96, right now I'm at 92 percentile, because they're not comparable. But if you still want to compare, I would suggest that you should look at the predicted CAT percentile figure, which will give you a better estimate as to how things will be in the actual CAT. But my bottom line generally is the same. Do not look at percentile too much. Don't get obsessed with it. Focus on the score, the raw score that you're getting, how you're performing in terms of your accuracy. These are better things to chase rather than the percentile. Okay, so don't worry too much about it, and focus more on solving a lot of questions. So 200 to 300 questions of geometry, that would be like a fairly sweet spot, I would say. At the same time, do not ignore other areas, right? Because see, geometry, maybe you know that it is a perceived area of improvement, but there could be other areas as well. So figure out what are these areas. Is it numbers? Is it arithmetic? Is it algebra? Is it P and C, probability? How are you performing on these areas as well? So out of 5, my recommendation to all the students is that out of 5 major areas in quant, you should have at least 3 areas where you are very, very good. And the remaining 2 areas, even if you're like an average candidate there, wherein you have done all the basics, you have done, let's say, the class exercises, practice exercises, benchmarking tests, that should be enough. So out of 5, figure out which 3 areas are going to be your strong suit, and then the remaining 2 areas is something where you can just manage yourself. Okay. All right. Another question. Let's do this, which is, I have covered most basics last year. Should I focus more on revision and mocks now, or go module by module again? Now, there are 2 things that are possible. One is somebody had extensively prepared last year. 2 is you didn't prepare as much, right? So your preparation was very basic. So let's say if there were areas that you didn't touch at all during your preparation, right? So maybe let's say you skipped the entire algebra, or you skipped, let's say, the entire geometry, right? Or let's say you didn't practice any of the parajumbles. So if you have skipped some specific areas, you have not studied them, I would suggest that you actually sit with your modules and study it. But if you had done pretty much all the basics across all the topics, then you don't have to study module by module. Then the approach becomes test 2 modules. So when you're taking the CAT for the very first time, right, everybody has the approach as, let me do the module, and from there on you're moving to the tests. But when you're taking CAT for the second time, the approach changes, or rather reverses. So it becomes from test to module. So now, because you have done all the basics, as you mentioned in the question, you actually take the mocks. So let's say you have taken a mock today, and you realize that you are not able to solve time speed distance, you are not able to solve, let's say, logarithms, and you could not do a tournament based DI set, you could not do a few parajumbles and summary questions. So now go back to your modules and focus on these areas where you are making mistakes. So either you're not able to solve the questions, or you got the questions wrong. Go back to modules, revise those concepts, right? So even online you have a lot of resources available when you log into MyMS. So what I can do is, let's say in time speed distance, I faced issues. Let me go back to my modules in MyMS. Then there I locate the topic, I solve, let's say, the practice exercise questions, or I take the benchmarking test. I can use the AI powered adaptive practice as well to generate more questions. So these are all the things that I can do. Okay, and even once you take the SimCAT, when you are reviewing the SimCAT itself, there is an option called AI powered adaptive practice where you can generate more questions. So I will follow that approach rather than sitting with the module completely, especially if I've done the basics. So I would not suggest students who have already completed their modules to do the same thing again, because it's not going to help you a lot. But if you hadn't done it properly the first time, then of course you will have to do that. All right. Then another question: in my first attempt, my VRC scores were too volatile. What should I do differently to get consistency in this section? I don't know if there's anything which is like a magic pill when it comes to VRC. The first and foremost suggestion is going to be reading a lot. So you have to have a very good reading habit. Anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes is a standard recommendation that we give to most of the students. But depending on your comfort with the language, you may have to either increase it or decrease it. So you can say, let's say if you're somebody, so when I was a student, when I was taking CAT, I was terrible at VRC. And the problem that I faced was because I came from a vernacular medium school, I never used to read a lot when it comes to the language, the English language. And when I started taking the test, my scores used to be bad in VRC. And because of that, there was a negative loop that because my scores were bad, I kind of stayed away from the section. And I didn't prepare as much. And because of that, again, my scores were bad. So rather than that, the only way to fix it is to say, okay, even if my scores are bad or volatile, let me do the process. Let me trust the process, read a lot, solve a lot of RCs, VA questions, and then improve. See, because there isn't going to be a significant improvement, let's say in 7 days or 2 weeks, right? But 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, if you give it that, then you will see that your scores will start to change. So it adds up, whatever you do, whatever effort you had put in the first attempt as well, right? Volatility is fine. I mean, in some mocks you will do well, in some mocks you will not do well. That's absolutely fine. And we have done a lot of success videos. You must have seen some of them on the channel. There have been cases where students have got very low scores in some of their mocks. And eventually they have gone on to score a 95 plus or a 98 plus or a 99 plus as well. So it's okay, right? So don't take the SimCAT scores that you're getting to your heart and say that, okay, this is who I am, right? That is not the case. Instead, I will use it as a feedback and say, okay, fine, today I've got a philosophy RC wrong. Now, what do I do from here? So let me focus on reading philosophy for the next 1 week. Or let's say today I've got summary questions wrong. Now, how do I fix that? So let me go and do 20-25 summary questions before I take my next SimCAT. So that is the approach that you should be taking rather than worrying too much. See, because a lot of times we don't control everything that is happening in a test. It's not going to be like an ideal situation that you see a question, you solve it, you get it right every single time, right? So the accuracy will fluctuate, maybe some days 60%, 70%, 80%. That is okay, as long as there is a baseline and you know that that is the confidence that you're carrying to the test, that even on a bad day, 60% is going to be my accuracy. If it is my day, I can knock it off to 80-90% as well. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. How do I stay motivated for 6 more months after a disappointing first attempt? So some of you maybe didn't get a good CAT score last year, as in 24, or some of the other tests as well, you're not able to perform up to your potential. My only suggestion to you is that it's okay, right? So the first attempt for a lot of students is like testing the water. Let's say you're thrown in a swimming pool, you don't know how to swim, right? So the water is obviously going to enter your lungs, you're going to struggle, you will mostly feel that, okay, I will not be able to come out of this pool also. But then as you learn, right, as you start hitting the strokes that are necessary, you will realize that you're floating, right? So you've now learned how to swim. So the first attempt for a lot of students is like somebody is throwing you in a swimming pool and you don't know how to swim. So maybe you struggled because of that. But that's okay, right? Now that's the process that has happened and you've understood what is required to crack the test. See, let's say you're somebody who has got a 60 percentile. Now you know that you are ahead of 60% of the population, right? 40% of the population is still ahead of you. And now you know, okay, what are the mistakes that you did? What is it that the others are doing? So you may have seen your friends, let's say, who got better score, and you know that they solved far more questions compared to you, or they put in more efforts compared to you. So obviously that will show in the result. So whatever you did last year, use it as a base that, okay, I have so much base to work on, and build on that. There is no point thinking about the past because we don't have a time machine. We cannot go back in time and change that. It's okay. So whatever has happened has happened. Now figure out what is the next thing that you can do. So again, one of the success interviews which will come very soon on the channel, I was talking to a student who had a very good score in the first attempt. In the second attempt, in fact, the score went down, and in the third attempt, he was able to get into a very good college. Right? So these things happen. Some of it is in our control, some of it is outside our control. That's fine. So analyze first of all, what mistakes did you do? Did you do your preparation? Did you do complete justice to that? In most cases, I would say I've realized that students do not put in the effort that is required. So if you think that potentially I could have put in, let's say, 600 hours, but instead of that I just did 300 hours, clearly that will show in the result that you're getting. So I will analyze the mistakes, what kept me from achieving my target score, and then work on those things. So if I have not done enough reading this year, let me focus on that. If I haven't done a lot of DLR sets, let me do 2 DLR sets starting now every single day. So if you set that discipline, things will fall in place. Okay, that brings us to DLR. So my accuracy in DLR hasn't improved even after doing sets regularly. What can a repeater do differently in this particular section? So DLR is a tricky affair. It's not as straightforward as, okay, you do 100 sets and you're done. Broadly, I would say the exposure could be anywhere between 200 to 300 sets of DLR. That if you have that much exposure, you can say that preparation wise you're sorted. Even after that, when you go for the test, what eventually happens is a little bit of it is randomness. For example, what set you begin with, the first set that you choose may be the easiest set of the whole lot, or it may be the moderate set of the lot, or the most difficult set. So that is why the set selection becomes very important. And how do you get better at set selection? Is, of course, there's a process, right? So all the IMS students, you have something in the channel section of my IMS, you have a video regarding DLR strategy, attempt strategy. So if you go through that video, you will see that there is a process to assign points to every DLR sets based on what kind of conditions are there, the kind of values that are there, the kind of questions that are there, and so on. And basis that, you can figure out what is easy, what is moderate, what is difficult, and rank the sets. And then if you are able to identify the easiest set, you will see that automatically your score will improve, because you will cover the easy and the moderate questions and not spend unnecessary time on the difficult questions. So that is why watch that video. It's a very important video available to all the IMS students. But even if you are not an IMS student, I would simply suggest to you that you focus a lot on solving sets, at the same time remembering those approaches, because you have mentioned, right, that you have done a lot of sets but still you are not improving. It means that maybe you have not been able to retain what you have done. The second possibility is that you are not able to actually implement the strategy that you walk in with in that particular test. So let me figure out what is my approach, right? So is my approach itself faulty, that I am starting with a set and after 5 minutes I am realizing that there is no progress, and then I am jumping to another set. I spend 5 minutes there, no progress, you jump to third set. So instead of that, if I had spent, let's say, the initial 6 minutes in identifying which is a doable set, at the end of, let's say, another 5 minutes, you will actually have a set that you have solved. So that is why focus more on that, improving your set selection, and then the execution side of things. Okay, so it will take some time. I'm not saying magically it will happen, but give yourself, I would say, another 1 or 2 months, and you will start seeing some improvement if you continue to do, let's say, 2 to 3 DLR sets every single day. The other thing is making some notes out of it, right? So if you solve, let's say, a 4-set Venn diagram today, then you should know how to draw a 4-set Venn diagram. So there are a lot of students, right, who I've interacted with in the past, who, if I ask them, have you done a 4-set Venn? They'll say, no, I haven't done it. But 4-set Venn is an important thing, right? It has appeared in the CAT earlier. So anything that has appeared on the CAT, those kind of questions I should definitely know. So if CAT has asked, let's say, something to do with, let's say, a particular schedule, right, I should know that this is how these questions are solved. So knowing the approaches is very, very important. Again, a very simple example. You have a set involving, let's say, floors of a building. The first thing that you should know is that when you have a building, the floor numbering starts from the bottom, right? It doesn't start from the top. That's the most basic structural thing that you'll have to put in place to answer the questions. So if you know those approaches, mostly you will become successful. But yes, you will need to practice a lot, and everybody has to practice, right? There's no secret to it. Okay, I've already gone through most concepts last year. Is there a structured revision plan for repeaters? Okay, so the plan that I sort of briefly mentioned, right, which is a 7, 14, 21 kind of a plan. It's basically periodic revision. See, if you had done, let's say, a particular concept last year, and right now, today, if I revise that, of course, I'll remember some of it. But if I don't revisit it for, let's say, another 2 months, there is a chance that I will forget it. And that is why I am a strong advocate of making your own notes and not relying completely on the material that is given to you. See, because everybody has the same material. So all IMS students have the same material. The point is, what do you do with the material that you have? So that is why make your own notes. And I'm sure all of us when we were in school, we had that habit of writing things down. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of people don't write, and they rely more on having everything, let's say, digitally and all. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just saying that when you write, you're spending more effort, and that leads to better recall, right? So you retain things better. So write your own notes. Again, no harm in having digital stuff as long as you are making it for yourself and not just borrowing somebody else's notes. So make your own notes, write things down, and revisit. So I will say, okay, today I study a topic, 7 days down the line there's a revision, another 14 days there's a revision, another 21 days there's a revision. Then you will retain it better, because if you study the literature on our memory, right, and how when students study the things, that how much of it they will actually remember, you will see that as you start as the time progresses, basically the retention will start going like this, which is going down. But if you intervene in between, which is a periodic basis, then you will be able to retain it better. So that is why have periodic revision in place. My quant fundamentals were weak. Should I start quant basics from scratch again? So I think more or less I've answered this question, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But if you know that maybe, let's say, you didn't prepare last time, please start from the basics. Don't spend a lot of time also, because we have roughly about 6 months ahead of us. Not saying that it's not enough, it's just that I want you to make sure that you're getting the best out of your prep experience. So that is why do not overspend time as well. Figure out how much you need to do to be in a position where you can solve questions comfortably. Because see, it's not that you have complete liberty of time, right? So say 1 year of prep or 1.5 year of prep, you have 6 months ahead of you. You have to structure them properly, then only you'll be able to utilize it to the maximum benefit, right? Otherwise, I mean, 6 months is sufficient for somebody, 6 months will not be sufficient for somebody. As simple as that. Okay, I made a lot of silly mistakes in the last CAT. How can I reduce these errors? Now, silly mistakes is a part and parcel of the entire prep journey. So sometimes you make mistakes in the actual test. One classic mistake that, in fact, I have mentioned in a lot of my other sessions as well, is in a particular test, I repeatedly was writing 13 into 8 is equal to 91, right? So silly mistakes will happen. The point is to have bare minimum, like maybe single digit number of silly mistakes that you make in any of the tests that you take. So why silly mistakes happen is, one is you're not reading the question properly. Two is maybe you misinterpreted the question. Three is that you miscalculated something. So especially in quant or DLR, when you're making silly mistakes, and it happens in a SimCat, it happens in a sectional test or a module test, just have a log somewhere where you can just write things down that, okay, this is the mistake that I did. So I misread the question, I miscalculated the value, right? Things like that. So when you encounter a similar problem next time, you know that you have to be careful with your computations. So 13 into 8 is definitely not 91. So I will, in such cases, use the on-screen calculator, right? So there are ways to handle the kind of mistakes that you're making. You can definitely overcome that. But if you note it down and think about it carefully, otherwise the same mistake will continue to happen. I'm repeating CAT while working. What changes should I make in my prep strategy compared to last year? Okay, and I'm sure a lot of you who were in the final year when you took CAT 24, you will be in this similar position where you have now started working in May. Let's say you graduated or whatever, completed your graduation program. Now you will start working maybe from June, or you already started working. In that case, how do you structure? So simple, one day a week you take a break, and that day cannot be a Saturday or a Sunday, right? And this is like a formula that I can suggest. The reason for that is, as a working professional, you're going to get a lot of time on the weekends. Now, whether you have 5-day working, whether you have alternate Saturdays off, or whatever it may be the case, Saturday, Sunday are the days when you're going to do maximum preparation. So that is why do not take a break on Saturday, Sunday. The break can be, say, something like a Friday, right? So today it's Friday. So those of you working professionals, you can decide not to prepare for CAT today. But again, it can be a Monday or a Tuesday or whatever it is. That day you can say, okay, I'm not going to prepare for the CAT. I'm going to have fun. You can go out, go for dinner outside and things like that. But the remaining time, I decide for myself as to when do I study in the best possible way. For example, it could be some of your morning kind of individuals, you like studying in the morning. Some of you in the evening. Some of you can do actually half morning, half evening. So once you come back home from work, the first thing to do is to keep your phone away and decide that, okay, today this is what is going to happen. I'm going to study for, say, 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Instead of that, you can also say I'm going to solve, let's say, 30 questions. I like defining targets in terms of number of questions. So you say, okay, fine, today I'm going to solve 6 RCs and I will not get up from this place before I've completed that. You set that discipline, over a period of time, you'll realize that you're able to implement it. Initially, there could be a bit of a time when you'll take some time to get used to it. That's okay. If you're a morning person, again, get up early in the morning, study. What you don't compromise on is, one is your sleep. So don't change that too much. You will still need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep maybe. But figure out what is it that is controllable. Right? So maybe you're spending too much time on, I don't know, let's say entertainment. You're watching a lot of YouTube or movies and things like that. Can you reduce that? Yes. So I will chalk out my calendar for a week and figure out what exactly I do with my time, and then start removing the activities and replacing that with CAT preparation. So because see, roughly 8 hours, let's say you must be working, 8 hours of sleep. So you still have 8 hours. I'm removing 2 hours of commute. So you still have 6 hours. I'm removing an hour of, let's say, lazing around and stuff. You'll still have 5 hours. Is that enough for CAT preparation? The answer is yes. So let me plan for those 5 hours, 3 hours, whatever I get during the weekdays. One of the weekdays can be break, and Saturday, Sunday I push myself. So Sunday maybe you can study 6 hours. You take a SimCAT plus you do the analysis. That itself will take about 4 to 5 hours. So if you have that discipline of taking a test every Sunday and then maybe one test during the week, you will realize that it is helping you far more than, let's say, trying to cram things towards the end, which is not going to help. So these are the changes that you'll have to make from a schedule perspective. Otherwise, the rest of the things that I've spoken about applies to everybody. If my SimCAT percentiles are stuck in a similar range as last year, how do I get off it as a repeat taker? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier as well, your SimCAT percentile is not something that you should be worried about too much. It's okay, whatever you're getting right now, that's fine. Later, when you are entering in the month of, let's say, October or November, that time percentile will be more realistic. We also give something called predicted CAT percentile, which you can look at. But again, I'll not get underconfident or overconfident by the figures that I see. Okay, so don't worry too much on that front. As a repeat taker, focus more on what are the gaps in your preparation. So because you have done most of the basics or some of the basics, you take the test, figure out what you're not able to solve, go back to your modules, study those concepts before you take the next SimCAT, and just keep repeating this process. And as I said, this is very different to somebody who is taking CAT for the very first time. Okay, so we are more or less done with all the questions that we got in the Google form. So I'm going to start with questions from the YouTube chat window. Okay, all right. So this is a question from VC, female, 23 BCom graduate. Okay, 23 graduate. I was working in Deloitte as an audit associate till August 24. So slightly more than a year of experience. Was not able to score in CAT 24, giving again my profile is 998. Will gap be a problem? Okay, so I strongly suggest you to take up a job again, right? Because if you're working till August 24 and we're having this session in May 25, there is already a gap on the profile. So what I will do is, and I don't want to lose out on any points that I'm getting for the work experience. So that is why I suggest that you start working. You have taken CAT already, which means you know the basics, the fundamentals will mostly be in place. Push yourself a little bit, but I would strongly suggest that you take up a job, because otherwise it will create a bigger gap on your entire application, and I would not want that to happen, right? So unnecessarily I don't want to make an error, right? So see, this is in my control, because see, even if you sit at home, 8 hours of sleep, if you're not doing anything, you have 16 hours. Will you study for CAT for 16 hours? The answer is no. So you need to have something that you can do with your time. In your case, because you're already a graduate and you graduated in 23, the best thing that you can do is a full-time job. Okay, so figure out a job that is in line with what you want to do in MBA as a specialization, and post MBA the kind of work that you want to do. Figure out something that is slightly more, for want of a better word, chill in nature, because I don't want to again pick something which is very very heavy. I have to travel for 4 hours every day. Those kind of things I will not do. But if I can find something which is like a reasonably um, decent job, something that will give me sufficient time to prepare for the CAT, that's what I will choose. Okay. Satvik scored 97 in CAT 24 after 3 months of prep, 99.5 in verbal, that's very impressive. GEM candidate with 977 profile and work ex of 5 years in Accenture. What are the honest chances with the 2 7s in my profile for IMC? Okay, so again, IMC focuses a lot firstly on your CAT score as well, and your graduation score, though it will create some impact, a higher CAT score will solve the problem. So you will need to score on the higher end. I think you should be aiming for something like at least a 99.5 or a 6 to be in a position where you can confidently say that I may get a call from C. Uh, but yeah, at most places that graduation will hit you a little bit, but your 10 score is good. Your 12th not so great. 12th and grad are okay. They're not bad, but it will hit you or hurt you in some or the other way in some of the old IMs. In new IMs, that is not a problem. The other thing is, because you have 5 years of experience, right? You should also look at the ISB PGP as an option. You should also look at some of the 1-year executive MBA programs. So whether it is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, they also have 1-year full-time MBA programs. I think you should consider that as well. Okay. Laksh is asking, is it true or myth that the progress is slow in HR domain? Okay, so firstly, Laksh, there is a common misconception that HR is not something that people should do, right? Because the career progression is slow. There have been instances of people going from HR to CXO positions, like becoming CEOs, for example, uh, but the numbers are on the lower end. Right? See, HR, or what has happened is that a lot, because it is not a revenue generating role, a lot of times it is sort of sidelined and people don't want to do it. But HR as a field has evolved a lot. So if you look at, say, pre 2000 HR, the kind of roles which are offered, versus post 2000, the roles have also evolved. Especially now with technology and all of that, the roles have further evolved. So there's a lot of component of analytics also that is used in HR. So I would not say that people should choose only on the basis of how slow or fast the career progression is, because sometimes very fast career progression you may also burn out, and very slow career progression also you don't want to have. So don't look at it from that lens. What I'll think is, firstly, do I like HR or the kind of jobs that are available? Am I okay doing those things? Do I want to do something else? Do I like this or not? So go with the liking that you have. See, people always ask me, should I do operations? Should I do this, that? My point is, if you like it, then you do it. So I'm not going to force fit everybody in the same thing, that all of you do finance or all of you do marketing or all of you do this, because it has average placement higher compared to other things. So you will have fewer examples of people who have done HR and have now gone into becoming CEOs, right? As I said. But let's say somebody who does a finance or a marketing can at a later point of time have a people focused role. The answer is yes, possible. But again, people don't do that because why would you do it, right? So if you have spent, let's say, 10 years or 15 years in HR, you would not want, in finance, you would not want to go to HR after that. So the transitions generally don't happen unless for whatever reasons it's like a global MNC where you have shifted your career in that particular trajectory somehow. But those examples are very, very limited. So I would not completely accept that statement that the progress is slow, because there are some roles that pay very, very well, but it depends, right? So there's no one unique answer that I can give. I've done MBA from tier 3 college, not happy with role and salary. Should I give CAT for IM? Okay, so uh, if you already done your MBA, I would suggest that you evaluate whether you can just continue in your job, switch your job, go to a better place and apply the learnings that you got rather than just trying for another MBA. If you still want to do that, I suggest executive MBA, which is the 1-year full-time programs rather than a 2-year full-time program. Vrinda, I have conceptual clarity with all the topics, solve modules, but still score below average. I get scared in a mixed bag of questions. How do I approach my prep? Okay, Vrinda, we discussed a lot of these things, so I hope that has helped you. But just to give a quick answer, uh, the only way you can get over this fear is if you expose yourself to that situation multiple times. So what I'll do is, you have the module with you, right? Just open any page of the module, point to a question and try solving it. Then open another page, another topic, point to a question, try solving it. So this is like an offline practice, but it will still help you because there is the way there is switching cost concept, right? There's a switching cost here as well. So you see one question of algebra, from there on you're having next question of geometry. Definitely there is a mental switch that is happening. But while you're solving questions of a particular topic, there is less switching. So that is why people find it more comfortable to solve questions of a topic rather than questions from mixed bag. So expose yourself to that multiple times, sure you will get better. How to deal with demotivation? Motivation, I think, is a very external, very internal thing. The only way, but people think of it as external. So people look for it outside. You're not going to get it. So any motivational video that you watch, you stay motivated for exactly 5 minutes after that. And then what, right? So you come to your ground reality. You suddenly realize that, oh, this is nice. This sounds good, but what do I do with it? So you have to be internally motivated to do it. So I always tell students, right, if you are saying that I have to prepare for CAT, that motivation is not there. Versus if you say I want to prepare for the CAT, your efforts will flow in that direction. So don't get demotivated with your scores. But if you're not putting the effort, then you should be hard on yourself and say that, okay, I'm not putting the effort that is required. Karthikeyan, I've attended the SimCAT. I realize I need to focus more. How should I analyze the test effectively and so on? Okay, so Karthikeyan, we are going to make a video very soon on how to analyze a SimCAT. If you are an IMS student, and because you have taken SimCAT, you have in your My IMS under channel section, there is a section called One Too Many Mentorship Sessions. There's a video called How to Analyze SimCAT, and I had only taken that session. So have a look at that. Otherwise, also in another week's time, we are going to upload a video on the YouTube channel wherein it's a detailed process. I will definitely not be able to cover it in 5 minutes. It's a 1 hour plus video. Have a look at that. I'm sure it will help you. Phenotroops, should I join Nirma for my MBA program? Can't repeat anymore. Please reply. Why not? I mean, Nirma is a good college. See, anybody who is thinking that I have got a particular college, what should I do? My point is, think of what is the best that can happen from that college. So what if you are in the top 5% of Nirma? And what outcomes will you get because of that? And then chase that. So this is a learning that I had when I was doing my MBA. So I did my MBA from JBIMS, and when I got into JBIMS, a lot of people told me that, why don't you try for 1 more year, right? So go to an IM. But the point is that this is what I've got. Let me do the best that I can with it, right? Because see, to put it in Hindi, right? होने के लिए कुछ भी हो सकता है. So one of my friends told me that होने के लिए तो हम लोग IM में हो सकते थे. A person in IM will say होने के लिए मैं Harvard में रह सकता था, right? So and Harvard guy might be thinking of something else. So whatever I've got, these are the variables that I have right now with me. let me do the best that I can with it without having any sort of regret. That's it. So if you can't wait for another year, join Nirma and do the best that you can. Okay, that's about it. Rudra, I scored 97.5 last year with sectionals at 67, 99, 98. What should be my approach to clear VRC cutoff? Reading, right? So as I said earlier as well, um, considering you have 67 percentile there and 99, 98 in the other areas, it tells me that you're a very strong logical reasoning kind of person, mathematical oriented person. You have to take care of your verbal, and don't make the mistake that I did during my prep, which is staying away from verbal. In fact, over index on it. Try and do, let's say, 1 hour of reading every single day. Do it for the next 1 month, and then we can talk again. Devank, I'm BBA candidate with 697, fresher, last year scored 93 and this year aiming for 99. Do I have a chance of getting calls from top IMs? Firstly, very difficult to say, okay, because see, we don't know how much percentile you will get exactly. Second is, we don't know how many students will take CAT next year. We don't know what will be the profile of these students. So that is why certainly saying anything is going to be challenging. You know that your 10 score and your graduation score is low, but a lot of new IIMs of course don't look at it. Some of the old IIMs do not have points for 10th, for example Lucknow. So there is a possibility that you will get some of the calls, but you should not be overthinking about that. So I'll rather just focus on CAT prep, get a very strong CAT score, and then whatever happens happens, right? See, because even with very high CAT score, there are cases where people don't get calls from some of the IIMs, and that's okay. What can you do about their process, right? You just, your effort that is in your control. So I would strongly encourage you to firstly take up a job, right? So start working, prepare for the CAT, give your best, and then see what happens. Reena, I got 99 in SimCAT 1. Are they in line with the actual CAT? My profile is 3 of work in finance 677. What are the good converts I can expect? Okay, so again, same answer when it comes to converts. Too early to talk about that. Regarding 99 percentile in SimCAT 1, that's very good, but I will not focus too much on percentile. Raw score, accuracy, what kind of mistakes I am making, right? So that analysis is more important than the value that you are getting. I'm a repeater, past I'm a student, I've started prep now. Should I start mocks from June after covering all? I'm self-preparing, so what should be ideal way to go out for CAT? I have gap year 2. Profile is 85, 92, 74, non-engineer, male, gap year. Right now, is it possible for you to not have a gap, which means that you start working? Because see, that will take a lot of pressure away. See, not working, preparing for CAT full time, not doing anything else might create a pressure situation. Instead, take up a job. It will also make you more disciplined towards your CAT preparation. And because you're preparing on your own with the SimCATs, you focus on taking the test, analyzing it properly, using the online resources that have been given to you. So have a structured plan for yourself and follow that. Okay. When you should start mocks is whenever the proctored SimCATs happen, just take it. So don't overthink that, okay, I'll take it later, I'll do it once I've maybe revised all my modules and so on. Don't do that. Follow the approach that I recommended, which is taking the test, figuring out what you're not able to solve, and then going back to the modules. Okay, last 3 questions before we end it. 887 profile at 75% last year. What colleges should I target this year? Okay, Atharva. So you can target the best of the best colleges, right? So nothing should stop you from aiming for a top institute, right? See, 887 is a decent profile. See, the problem is that everybody looks at 10-12 graduation and thinks about old IIMs, right? But beyond old IIMs also, there are great institutes, right? So you think of an FMS, you think of XLRI, SPJMR, FMS, and whatever it is, right? You have a lot of great options beyond that also. You think of IITs, you have new IIMs, etc. So don't get fixated with the old IIM and the profile discussion that you keep hearing. Stay away from that. You know your profile, you can only add to that through your work experience. So get that done, start having some work ex, focus on CAT prep, that's about it. And 75 percentile last year again is a decent starting point. And in fact, I've mentioned this in some of the earlier sessions as well. My first attempt CAT was 83 percentile. Okay, so when I was in the final year of college, everybody has a different story to share, so it's okay. I'm struggling in VRC, what should I do? Pintu, I mentioned earlier as well, reading is going to fix a lot of it, and then practicing RC and practicing V, right? So there's no, nothing out of the world answer that I can give you, but you do it consistently and that will create a difference. Satvik, with 5 years of experience, should I give up hopes for a normal 2-year MBA and go for only exec? Not really. I mean, it's always possible to go for a 2-year MBA as well. It's just that you will find more people, um, more. First of all, see what happens in a 2-year MBA, right? There's no necessary work ex, which means you're going to have say 30, 40, 50% of the batches freshers with zero experience or less than 1 year of experience. Those interactions, I'm not saying are not that helpful, but for somebody who is already having 5+ years of experience, maybe you want to have or surround yourself with people who have more experience than you, rather than surrounding yourself with people who are freshers, let's say. So it comes to that aspect rather than whether you are whether you can handle it or not. I mean, obviously, if you go for a 2-year full-time program, you'll definitely do it. And if the college has no problem in selecting you, you should not have too much problem joining the college, is how I look at it. But I suggest that you also consider 1-year MBA programs, because those batch profiles are more suitable for you. That's about it. Mamta, I am repeater fresher rated 6. Should I prepare with or without job? With job, right? So my standard recommendation is going to be preparing with job. I'll take one last question. I need a stream change from tech to finance. This is from Satvik. Possible in both, right? So whether it is a 2-year program or a 1-year program, possible to change your stream. So that is not the question. The question is whether you want to surround yourself more with people with higher work ex than people with lower work ex. Okay. All right. So I think we have covered more or less everything. So thank you so much for joining. I hope it has helped you. We of course have a lot to talk about. I mean, I can just go on and on, but somewhere we have to draw the line and end the session. So today we'll end it, but I'll see you very soon in some of the other videos and the webinars that we keep doing for IMS students and the AMA sessions. Okay, so see you very soon. Thank you so much for joining and wish all of you all the best. Keep taking SIMCATs, and in case you haven't subscribed to the channel, do it as early as possible. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.